Hey guys, thanks for coming back. Alright, so in today's video, we're going to go through the process of changing the exhaust manifolds on the Ford F-150, and then we're going to talk about what happens when you change the exhaust manifolds. There's a lot of things that can crop up. There's oil leaks, there's coolant leaks. I own 3 Fords. They all have the 3.5, an Explorer, F-150, and a Taurus. They all have two things in common. One is the beautiful blue oval. Henry, great job. They still use it today. The Ford script, nice. Still being used today, but they can't hold their coolant. It's like that uncle that can't hold his liquor. It's just terrible. It just squirts out all over the place. So the dreaded turbo coolant leak on the F-150, that developed on mine right after I changed the exhaust manifolds. And then of course the oil leak that looks like it's coming from the turbo on the passenger side. A lot of times it's not. It's the brake vacuum booster pump that's right up above the turbo, and it drips down on the turbo. Get that oily smell in the truck. So anyways, the work's been done. You haven't seen the video yet, but I want you to hear what it sounds like now, because it's a world of difference. And in the video you hear what it did sound like, and it's pretty rough. Get out of the way. I live in the south. Hold this up there on that, and you kind of use that to finish pushing the crush washer all the way. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're working on the 2016 Ford F-150 with a 3.5 liter EcoBoost twin turbo engine. So what's the problem with the engine? Well, I don't know, about 65,000 miles ago I changed the turbos on it. That was a heck of a job. I didn't record it, but I should have. Next problem, that happened right during COVID. And I could get the parts, but there was no mechanics available to do it for weeks on end. And it was going to cost out the wazoo. And I needed the truck the next day, so I stayed up all night one night and got the turbos done and packaged it up next morning at about 8 a.m. and hooked up a trailer to the truck and ran to Indiana with it. I haven't had any problems with the turbo since, but I do have the dreaded exhaust manifold breaking off a stud problem. It's about $2,800 repair at the dealership, $2,400 to $2,800. Whenever they give you a range of $2,400 to $2,800, you're going to go with the high end and say $2,800, because somehow they'll get it there and say, told you it was going to be that much. So I'm going to try to save about $2,400 and do it myself. Bought the kit online. It uses 11 exhaust studs instead of the manufacturer's 8, although they drilled for 11 apparently. So why they left out 3 bolts and made the manifold a little bit smaller, I don't know. Were they trying to save some weight? I don't know. But anyways, I'm at O'Reilly's. Why? Because I needed some supplies. So I ran over here to O'Reilly's. I did order the exhaust manifolds, but I didn't realize I was going to need the turbo gaskets and then the little water line, the little, you know, you'll see them in the video. But I had to get those, so I got those coming to be here tomorrow. But anyways, what does the truck sound like if it doesn't have all of its manifold bolts in? I don't know. Listen really careful. Maybe, I don't know. Tell me. Did you hear that? It sounds terrible. Tomorrow when I've got the truck up on stands, I'll cold start it for you and let you hear it again. But it sounds terrible. It's loud. And every time you start it, there's a funny smell. Comes on into the cab here a little bit. So I've decided that it's time. Why did I decide right now? Because, well, it's been leaking for 2 years. Just didn't want to get around to it. Afraid of drilling out studs. Not really sure what I'm going to get into, so I'm going to bite the bullet and do it, because on Wednesday we're going to hook up the camper, Mildred, and we're going to tow it up through the mountains of Tennessee and do a little camping. So she's down on power a little bit, so it's not just that it's noisy, it's that it's down on power. Not all the exhaust is getting into the turbo. Of course, the turbos are where we're creating our power. And so she's pulling like a 6-cylinder is what I'm trying to say. And we want a little bit more oomph for the mountains. So I don't know if you can hear it. Well, maybe if I put my seatbelt on and you weren't listening to the seatbelt dinger, you'd have a better chance of hearing it. But safety third. Okay, here we go. Let me tell you what. Let me make a left-hand turn up here. I'll get on the gas a little bit. You tell me if you can distinctly hear it in the background. It's loud. All right, here we go. Going around the corner. Yeah, that was a pretty hard pull there, and 0 to 50, it still doesn't struggle, but it sputters a little bit, and gosh, it's loud. So where it struggles with the power is when you got a trailer on the back. When you put this thing under any kind of a load, if it's just the truck, she still takes off like she always did. Pretty responsive engine for a truck, but with a load on, she's done. So just pulling up to the shop. Let's get this thing brought in tonight, get the front end jacked, and then we'll start into this thing in the morning. All right, good morning, guys. It's Saturday morning. About to get started on the F-150 exhaust manifolds, and about jack the thing up in the air, and I realized I've got 2-ton jack stands. I know how you all care so deeply about my safety, and I'm like, somebody's gonna say something about me putting two-ton jack stands underneath that, and pretty sure they're Harbor Freight too, and so somebody's gonna complain about that. You know, you trust your life to Harbor Freight jack stands, and you're right. Safety should come first. So I got a couple of 6-ton Harbor Freight jack stands, because what's better than 2 tons? 6 tons. And so the girl, very dutifully, well-trained, asked me if I wanted to buy the extended warranty on them. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be underneath my truck, and these are holding it up. If they fail, I won't be here to make that warranty claim. And if for some reason I'm outside of the truck and they fail and the truck crashes down, do you think I want free replacements? Probably not. They're just going to go in the junk pile, and we'll never talk about it again. But anyways, let's get this truck jacked up in the air. I loosen the lug nuts. I'm going to jack it up, get the wheels off. Inner fender's out. That's a good place to start, and then let's get rocking and rolling on this daunting project. And I don't know if it should be daunting or not. We're gonna find out as we get into it, and we're gonna see just how big a project this is, and I'll let you know as I go along if this is something I suggest try, or if you just go and write a check for $2,800 and let them do it with their 6-ton jack stands, or they probably have a hoist and air tools and yeah, all the stuff I don't have. Okay, guys, one last time. It's been sitting in the shop all night long. Got cold last night. This is a true cold start. Listen carefully. See if you can hear that exhaust leak. Pay attention. Turn the volume up. I don't want you to miss it. Did you hear it? Yeah, it's there. I can definitely hear it this morning. As the engine idles down, it gets a little more spaced out because it's running slower. It takes a while, and the manifolds will heat up a little bit, and it'll shut the gap a little bit, but it's still pretty loud. But I'm noticing, look at how hazy those headlights are. I did a video on the 350 Nissan, and we cleaned those headlights up really nice with the Meguiar's. I'll tag a link to that video down here. But you'd be surprised how well it works. I think I'm going to give these the old Meguiar's cleanup treatment too. Okay, so in this video, we're going to cover a couple different design flaws on the Ford F-150. One of them is shared by a lot of manufacturers. They use these solid metal nuts with these little tin covers on them that are useless, because every time you got to get your car serviced, the guy puts an impact on there and spins the thing around to the point where the little heads on them, like this one here, is not loose, but I can almost spin the whole thing around. So you got to get them off. Well, what I found is a 22 millimeter metric socket. You put it on there and try to get that thing lined up so it's kind of in the center. And you want to hammer that on there like that. Then you're going to put this in here and here. Loosen that off like that. And then you're going to pull the socket back off. Not the best way to do it, especially if you're broke down on the side of the road and your car has got a 3/4 inch or 7/8 inch, wheel lug wrench to get these things off. Now to go over to O'Reilly's, I checked before, these things were like $7 a pop, and there's 24 of them on the truck. So, $200 in for lug nuts. So I jumped online last night, lug nut guys, and asked them to send me a set of solids. And so no more little tin caps. They'll be here like Wednesday next week. It's awesome. So I've used them on a few projects. Really like lug nut guys. The prices are unbeatable. If you haven't checked them out, you need to check it out. We're not sponsored. All right, guys, let's get this wheel off here. It is nice to have the car up in the air, but remember, don't go too far up in the air, because not only do you have to get underneath the truck, which is nice to have it up in the air, but you're going to have to get up on top of the truck. So the higher up you go with it, the bigger ladder you're going to have to use to get up there, and the more you're going to have to lean over. And it's the easiest thing to have it super high in the air. Hoist would be nice for you to raise and lower it, but we're working with what we've got here, and we're happy to do it. All right, we're about to pull off this inner fender well here. on the passenger side. But before we get started with that, in the spirit of full transparency and ultimately curiosity, 65,000 miles ago when I did the turbos on this, I was putting the connector underneath the oil and water connector. It's 2 bolts holding on. I torqued one of them down a little too much and broke it off. It was early in the morning. I was leaving that same morning for Indiana with a trailer load of furniture I was taking up there at the time, and I didn't have time to be monkeying around with a broken bolt. So I grabbed a 2-inch C-clamp and I squished the flange and what it was bolting into together with the C-clamp. Wasn't my phone's finest mechanical moment, to say the least, but it's what I did. And I don't know, it was kind of a temporary thing. I thought, you know, when I get back from this trip, I'll take that down, tap that bolt out, and drill it and tap it and put a new bolt in there. Just never really got around to doing that. 65,000 miles, will a C-clamp suffice to fix a broken bolt? And it wasn't a great C-clamp. It might have been like a Canadian Tire. So I'm very excited to take this inner fender out and see if there's still a C-clamp on there. If there's not, I shouldn't have told you about it. Just pretended the bolt snapped off somehow. But if there is, I wanted you to be ready for it. No surprises. All right. So right here's our turbo unit. These 3 bolts here hold the turbo on. We got a little gasket leaking right through here, don't we? Okay, might want to look at that while we're in here. Every once in a while I do get the smell of burning oil, and that's where that's coming from. It's just dripping off of there right down onto the exhaust. So we're going to separate the exhaust downpipe here from the turbo. We're going to take the turbo off. We're going to take the manifold off. We're going to get this elbow out of here. We're going to get the downpipe out of there. We're going to pull all that stuff out of there so we can get to it, and then we'll be able to see the actual manifold. But you see all the soot right up in here? See how black that is? Okay, that's where it's leaking up and throwing soot all up under the engine. Turbo's holding on. Let's see. Down the bottom. You guys see what I see? Oh, yeah. You know what that is? That's a Fomoco. Not really. Clamp. It's still on there. That's awesome. I love it. C-clamp. Yeah. It's more than just, you know, for little projects around the house. You can rebuild that turbo with it. So there's a lot of ways you can start into this project. I'm going to start by making a little bit more room. And I'm going to do that by getting some downpipes out of the way. We do need to drain the coolant out of here because, well, there's coolant lines that go into the turbos. If we don't drain the coolant, it's going to go all over the floor. So we will drain the coolant out of that, but I'm going to take these 2 hoses loose first and get this elbow off of here so we can get this downpipe out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to take this clamp here now that it's loose, put it up out of the way, and then we're going to try to lift this. Let's see, we've got another clamp down here. Let me pull him loose as well. Okay, I'm going to go up top and see if I can wiggle this pipe out of here so I can get this elbow out of here. Problem is these 2 pipes here, they kind of snake around each other, so a little tricky to get out. All right, I'm going to start by taking the clamps off the air box, loosening this up, taking all these pipes out of here. They all connect together. Taking them all out is really going to make the job a lot simpler. Doesn't take long to do, and gets them completely out of the way up top, and they're not fighting you. Get this guy out of the way, okay, and so I can get better light and a little bit more space in here to work. And put the big old plastic cover off. Not necessary to do the job, but a lot easier to get the light down on what you're doing if that's not in the way. Not trying to confuse you, I am reaching down on the driver's side there. Getting that pipe loose. It's going to eventually have to come loose, so I was just in a good position to get to it, so I loosened it off. So the larger of the 2 pipes connects down here, so I just undid that as well. You got the 2 clamps down here on the turbos that you have to undo. Loosen that one up. We're going to go up top and see if we can't pull that out. And when you're coming up here, you're going to notice that on this pipe, it's got a little grommet down here that pops in right here on the pivot point. It's just like a little ball thing that pops in there. So let's I gotta put the camera down to get it out. That's what I'm talking about there. That little peg is just back in there. Now this should, it's got a rubber line on the back here. So let's undo the rubber line from here. All right, and then we should be able to pull this pipe out. So a little persuasion with one of these little trim tools catch it on the airline and just pry it off. Really helped to remove this line here. So just another little use for a trim tool. Same trim tool here. Pull that vacuum line off of there. There you go. It just gives it a little persuasion. Comes right off of there. Before we go too much further now, I'm having a hard time getting this pipe to lift up here to get that boot off. So what I think I'm going to do is undo the exhaust back here. Have to get underneath a little bit to do that. Get this one stud here, 15 millimeter. There's another one underneath. And then what we'll do is we're going to pull off the coolant and the oil lines. So first we'll have to get up here and drain the coolant out of the radiator. I live in the south, and we don't get a whole lot of salt on the road, so these aren't completely rusted up. You might find a different experience if you live up where there's salt and grime and stuff on the roads. These things tend to rust out a lot worse. But most of the parts down here are going to let go pretty good for me. Talking about how easy they come off just until they dent. I'm going to put a little looby-dooby on there. And then while I'm up here, I'll spray a little lube on these guys here. I'm about to run and get some lunch. New hot dog place in town. Check that out. I'll let you know what I think. Fix the other stud back there. I'm going to let those sit over lunch, and then we'll get back in it. You can see the exhaust studs up here. The one in the back. See that hole back there? Yep, that's broke off. How we get that out of the, that's where it's leaking from. Yeah. Now how we get that stud out of there is yet to be seen. I've seen guys, you know, try to put some weld down in there and weld the nut out and turn it out. Looks like the easiest thing to do, because they're not torqued in too bad, is drill it and put in an extractor screw. I think that's the route we're going to try to go. So let's see how it works. All right, Chicago dog, Carolina all the way dog, fries and a drink, under 15 bucks. Yeah, I'll be back. Okay, it's time to drain the coolant out of the truck, and a little tricky to get to, and a little hard to find the coolant release, but I'm gonna show you where it's at. First thing we wanna do, we wanna take the lid off the coolant reservoir so we don't have any vacuum. Don't do this when the engine's hot, but you guys already know, it's a nice cool engine. All right, so I got my 5-gallon Lowe's bucket down here. I am on the driver's side of the vehicle. Here's the frame rail, and you wanna look just past the frame rail to the front, and it's going to be right up there. See that little red thing? That's what it is now. It's got a little spout on the front of it. If I was being smart, I'd put a hose on there down in my bucket, because this is probably just going to spray everywhere. But I don't always do things the easy way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this, but I'm going to get out of the way first, because once it opens, it's going to start running. I don't really want my face down here. So I'm going to turn this, I'm going to get my bucket under it, and I'm going to catch everything we can. There you go. And we're draining. Take a little nap here. It kind of threads out. It's not a quarter turn like a faucet. It threads out. So you got to turn it 2-3 times around to get it to come out. But once this is finished, we'll tighten it back up and continue. All right, to get a little better access, I went ahead and dropped that pan out from underneath the bottom. I can reach up now to where my exhaust manifold or my downpipe bolts are a little bit easier. Working on getting those out. I'm also going to need to pull the starter, so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. I'm going to clean up these terminals too before we put that back together. They're getting kind of corrosive, to say the least. I had to just replace that one not too long ago when I changed the battery out, because it was shot. All right, there are a couple of these little clips in here. I always hate taking these out, because, you know, chances of ever finding them when they spring out of here. And the little tool pulls it out like this. They clip onto 3 spots basically, and there's the little ring. So put that up here. Remind me later where I stuck that. So that's that line off. The other 2 are down there, and then there's, I believe, if I remember right, there's one more in the back there that we can get out once we get the turbo unit out. Remember to undo your C-clamp. Not all models have the C-clamp. Just the ones I've worked on, I guess. There you go. Look at that. Perfect. Yeah, a little... I don't know. I can't even read the stamping on there. Made in Taiwan, maybe. But I'll tell you what. She did a great job. All right, so taking out the starter, on the bottom of the starter, you've got this little bracket here that undoes with a 10 mil, and that gets you to the nut for the 13 mil. And then there's another 13 mil right above it. Right there. So we take those 2 13 mils off, and that starter will drop down out of here. All right, these are the studs that hold the starter on. So the top one screws in, same as the bottom one. The top one doesn't have anything added to it. The bottom one has that cable added on. So we've got the starter up out of the way now. You can see here's our exhaust flange. There's our turbo unit up there. I'm trying to show you where all the things are. This bolt here, that's where I use the C-clamp. That's the one I broke. There's another one on the other side. It's a Torx bit. I got to figure out what size it is real quick and I'll let you know. There's another one of those coolant lines that comes in up here. This black line here, we got to pull the clip out of that too. It's a little hard to get the camera and my face and my light and everything else in here. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that and maybe I can give you a better picture of it once it's out of the truck. That's the bolt, the one remaining, the one I replaced its partner with a C-clamp. And it came out from the bottom of here to release these two lines here. And that's the oil. I believe send and return is what I believe that is. I've got new gaskets for that as well when I put this back together. And of course, I'll have to find a new one of these guys. Something that'll work. Alright, let's try to sneak in here. The Torx bit. Okay, I don't think I got quite the right size Torx bit on there, but I can't find my bits. So I'm going to get one of these bolts out and run and get the proper bit. Alright, there's 3 of these. That's what holds the turbo onto the manifold. We're getting close to actually getting the manifold out here, folks. Getting real close. They are a little tricky to get to, but not impossible. A lot easier when you go in through the wheel well. You can do this from down below. I know because that's how I change them. You do a lot of it just by feeling around though. You can't see as well. So I definitely suggest going in through the wheel well. You almost need to change manifolds, but for the turbo too, I think it's a better plan of attack. So the turbo is literally loose from everything except this elbow, but it's not, the elbow is attached to the turbo, it's not attached to the downpipe anymore. So what's holding it on right now is these 2 lines. Get my head in there a little tighter and see if I can't get that line to pop free. We got it to pop out of there, and apparently I didn't have quite enough coolant drained out of the system because, well, there it goes. So even though I had the bottom of the radiator open to drain that out, that's, I guess, coolant that was left in the block, what have you. So that is going to run out, and I'm just going to let it run out. And, I mean, I guess I could catch a bucket, try to catch it. All right. Get my Lowe's bucket under it now. Let that finish running out. The nice thing is that won't happen on the other side because there won't be any fluid left. The only thing left holding this on here should be that pipe in the back at this point. All right, a few hours later, unfortunately, there it is. The passenger side turbo unit is out. There is the manifold, and you can see up here where all that carbon is. That's where it's leaking out behind here. The stud in the back, see how it's missing? That one's broken off, so we're gonna extract that. There's one of the extra holes right there that Ford drilled in the block and tapped for a different manifold, and then they didn't use that manifold. There's more holes down on the bottom too that they drilled and tapped. Oh, okay, I got a broken stud down there too. Can you see that right up in here? So it looks like I got 2 broken studs. So let's get the ones out that we can get out. Take that manifold off, get that gasket off there, get that cleaned up, put a new manifold on tonight. Maybe get this side back together a little bit. That line in the back, this line right here, that guy, he's the tricky one. That's a coolant return line, or coolant in line and return line, one of the 2. Comes in there, goes out here, vice versa. And that line, you take the little clip ring off, which is, you know, not terribly bad to do, but then trying to get that thing out of there, forget about it. We'll put a little axle grease on it when we put it back together. Hopefully it slides in a little easier. This is where the bolt is broke off here, inside that hole, right down there. That's where I had to use the C-clamp. Let's try to get that manifold off of there. The new manifold has 11 bolts. I'm trying to soak these down. I'm only finding 6. That's because, well, factory it had 8. 2 we decided are broken off. So there's only 6 of them to spray down. Those 4 up there. And then there's 2 more down underneath, a little harder to see. I'm gonna let them soak for about 20 minutes and I'll try to get those out. All right, so it's a lot of manipulating around in here and everything else to get all these bolts out, but you can get them out. Saw somebody said you had to lift the engine out to do it, or lift it up a little bit, but you really don't. So there we go. Now can we get the manifold out of here? Just got the last one out. The last bolt was this one, and it was the hardest. So it's on the bottom, closest to the front of the engine. This guy here, he was the hardest just because there's stuff in the way. But that is the factory manifold. The new one's got extra bolt locations like down in here and up in here, maybe down here. It's got a few extras. It's got 3 extras actually. So this one's set up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The new one's set up for 11. And the block is already... So here's their gasket. We're going to pull this out of here. That's the crush gasket. You can see, look at that. That crack right there is probably was making that high-pitched rattle noise. It's probably vibrating through there like crazy. I'm sure that was working its way to the edge slowly. But yeah, like I say, it's been a lot of miles, but there's, what, 4 layers to that gasket there. And it crushes in when you put it on the new one. So it's funny, even this hole is drilled. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all 11 holes are in the factory gasket and line up with the factory holes. There are 11 drilled and tapped holes, but they decided to put a manifold on. It's only got 8. Thanks, Ford. All right, so you can see here, that is one of the broken studs, and this is the other broken stud over here. Terrible spot to work. Gotta make room for a light and camera and everything else, but anyways, so this is a broken stud here. This is another broken stud down there. You can see the extra locations that are already drilled and tapped. There's one here, there's one here. Not sure where the other one is, but yeah, they're already there. They exist. So we're gonna go ahead and get this cleaned up a little bit and try to get those studs extracted. Okay guys, back in the shop. We're trying to wrap this thing up today. So I did get on the passenger side, I got the manifold off last night, and I've almost got the turbo off on the other side. I've got one bolt I just cannot get off. I think I'm gonna have to cut the head of it off and then pull it off. It's stuck in the manifold, and I don't care because I'm changing out the manifold, so I'm not gonna waste a whole bunch of time on it. So then I'm just gonna cut that bolt off, save the turbo, scrap the manifold. But speaking of manifold, let me show you what the new manifolds look like. Those, by the way, are the 2 studs that had broken off. They were sticking out of the block, as you saw, out of the head, you know, 1/4 inch. I was able to put a pair of vice grips on those and just rotate them back and forth. Just keep working it, working it, working it. After you've made about 3 or 4 revolutions, they actually just come out by hand. So here is the Ford factory exhaust, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mounting points. So this is the newly designed exhaust. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's your first additional. 8, and then an additional 9, an additional 10, and then you still have the one at the end, number 11, that you had over here. So 3 extra points. You can tell just by looking at that. It's got a lot more places to grab it and hold it down. Should keep this thing in a lot better check. Basically, the 2 that we're really happy about is this one here and this one here, because this is the end that kind of tends to pull away with the turbo on it, and just that's where the breakage occurs. So it's kind of nice to add an extra one down here. Didn't really need it because we're fine down there, but I like that they used all the available stud mounting holes in the block. Did it right. The studs are going to go in the block next, or in the head. They get torqued to 8.8 foot-pounds. Then we're going to put on the nuts, then spacers. They get torqued to 18. And you do like start in the middle and work out, same you would putting a head on a block. So there is a pattern to it. We're going to go ahead and jump into that and get the torque wrench out and get these things in here. I still have 2 studs to pull out, but that shouldn't take long at all. Let's pull those out and start laying in the new ones. All right, so we got all 8 of our studs out. 3 of them came out with the nuts. 2 of them had to be extracted that were broken, and 3 actually came out intact. So it wasn't a ton of work getting them out. They actually came out a lot easier than I was thinking they would. So you can see the mating surface here. We're going to want to clean that down a little bit. We've got all those studs out. Now there's 11 mounting holes in here. You can see right back here real good now where it was leaking out, all that carbon. Let's go ahead and get that cleaned up and then put the new studs on. All right, so we went ahead and covered up the oil lines at the bottom there, the plastic bag, and put a little rag inside each of the exhaust ports there. There's a good chance that there's a valve open, that sort of thing. We don't want to get all that carbon up in the open areas of the inside of the engine. We're just gonna put a little scour pad on here, clean that off. We don't want to do anything too abrasive. We don't want to, you know, score up the whole side of the block. We just want to get the junk off. Yeah, I'm gonna need to get both hands on this to do that right, but you can see that's cleaning that junk off really nice. I'm definitely happier mating back to that service. I think that made a world of difference. Cleaned it all up, got that junk out of there. So let's go ahead and start running some new studs in. All right, so the original factory studs had a nice little 5mm end on them. You could put a socket on them, thusly, and put those in or take them out, okay? And it was, you know, it's a 5mm, but you could get enough torque on it to tighten them down to where they need to be. It was kind of handy, kind of convenient. So the new studs don't come with that, all right? They're the same on both ends, threaded and threaded. But what they did come with is a neat little tool for torquing them in. So it's threaded through on the one side, but capped on the other. So what you can do is you put this on like that, and then you can tighten this down. Once you get where you want to be, you just unscrew this, take it out, move to the next one. So that's how you torque in your, this is kind of a neat little tool that they included with the kit. I like that. I like when they try to problem solve for you and see what issue you're going to have. The other option was to put, you know, 2 nuts in there back to back, double nut it, and then just turn the front one, and then you got to, you know, try to get both of them break free and get them off, and you're probably going to, you know, just Mickey Mouse. So I really like this system here. Let's give it a try. See how that works. All right, I did notice in the kit, I already lost it, that little adapter that screws them in doesn't fit on the stud that's at the furthest down on the front of this side. But guess what? They put two nuts in the kit too, so you can put that on there and double nut it together and put it in that way. Problem I'm having now is my torque wrench won't fit up in there because it's just a little bit too tight around there. So this one is going to go in with a wing and a prayer and a little manual torquing. So what we want to do though is we want to make sure that we are starting with that front one, because if you go ahead and screw all these in, you know, because you're getting excited and guess what? All the rest of them are in the way of getting to the ones that are harder to get to. So start at the front, work your way back, putting them in, torquing them in as you go so that they're not in the way of the next one. A little pro tip. I just figured out by doing it the wrong way. All right, so maybe you're asking yourself, and it'd be a good question because I was asking myself. You put this tool on here, you torque this thing down. Now you're tightening this tool against the stud. How do you know when you undo this tool that you're not just turning the stud back out? If you build that pressure, like kind of nutting it on a little bit, you know, getting that tension on there, how do you know this doesn't just loosen out of the head a little bit? It's a good question. I say it's a good question because I asked it myself. So that means it's a really good question. I guess before I started this little video, I should have found my tool. An Allen key goes in the end of it, and what you do is you simply put the Allen key in there and you give a little, and it immediately releases the pressure off the end of the stud, and this thing turns off without any fear of loosening the stud. So there you go. The more you know. All right, let's keep this real. Let's keep this honest. This is my small torque wrench. There's hardly enough room for me to get my hand in there. You can't put this thing up there and swing it. And most of these, if you put an extension on it, you get suspension pieces in the way. There's no way you can get, you know, get out and torque on it. So most of these are going to be hand torqued. We're going to get one locked down, feel where the tension's at, and then we're going to try to mimic that best we can. You know, let's just be honest. I don't want you to think, how do you get his torque wrench in there and do all those? And I can't fit my torque wrench. Being honest, I'm not going to torque them all. I'm going to get one torqued real nice, kind of feel, gauge that, you know, a little muscle memory in the arm. And then we're going to just, well, we're going to get as close as we can. And that's where it's going to have to be. And that will have to be good enough. I guarantee you, at the dealership, they don't have a torque wrench that's going in there. And unless you pull the whole engine out, and they ain't going to do that. There's a little fudgery going on here, and we're going to continue the tradition right here. All right, you can see the whole line of new studs down in there. Torqued to the best of my muscle memory ability. Let's get a gasket up in there. Kit obviously came with a new gasket. There's the old one. I think I showed you that yesterday, how it's just ripping through there. They're just ripped in half. A couple of layers ripped through, so that's probably what's giving that high-pitched chirping noise. Is that thing flapping around like a reed in a tuba or something. But anyways, let's get a gasket on. Let's put this thing in and see how she looks. All right, so there's our new gasket. You can see it's multi-layers of metal as well. And it goes in like this here. Some of the holes in it are cut a little funny. That's so that they hold on the studs. They're not perfectly round. You just want to be real careful when you're putting this thing in there that we don't bend it, put too much pressure on one hole and not the other. You want to put it on there a little bit at a time, and nice and easy. Easy does it. Yeah, when you hit those ones that are funny shape. And I guess that's so when you put it on there, it stays locked in place. This is a crush gasket, so when we put the other exhaust manifold on here and squish it down, it'll crush those down. And just remember, you can only use this once, and a reusable part. Once it's squished, it's squished. I cannot get that thing to go over top of those studs. Let me pull it out here real quick, and let's look at this thing together, shall we? Okay, so I guess they do work through there. They just take a little doing. So when you're trying to do 1, 2, 3 of those sets all at the same time that have those funny holes in them, it's just hard to get this thing to slide back. So, all right, so the new manifold is up there on that, and you kind of use that to finish pushing the crush washer all the way back. Whatever this thing is right here, I'm not even sure, I can't even see behind there. It's wrapped in foil, whatever it is, it's in the way. It's the biggest problem on this side is whatever this is here is that bottom bolt. It's hard to get the manifold past it and then up on the bolt. You kind of have to bring the top of the manifold up and then swing the bottom down in, and then once it's just sitting on that bolt, put it to where it needs to be and then slide it straight back. So it's a little tricky to get it in. Just not a lot of room. You can see this is where you're working in here, but there's the size of my hand, and it doesn't fit. So you're going all the way in from this end here. It is a tight fit. If you got big meat hooks, well, this might not be the job for you. Smaller, dainty hands would make this a lot easier. Okay, guys, you might remember this nut down here. That wasn't there before. That was where I had that C-clamp on. So I took the time to re-drill the bolt out of the starter, and I wasn't able to tap it. The hole got a little bit big on me, and I couldn't use a bigger bolt because it has to go through that oil fitting on the bottom. So I got a nut and a lock washer on the top of it, but that's bolted back up. I've got the exhaust manifold bolted back up. I've got 3 new flange bolts up in here to hold the turbo to the new manifold. I got the vacuum line back on. These little clips that go in here, I didn't know this. The first time I did it, well, I did it the hard way when I changed the turbos. I put those lines in, and then I fought to get those clips in. You can hardly see what you're doing. Put the clips in before you set the turbo in there, and the lines just pop in and lock up. So much better way to do that, just my ignorance. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the 2 turbo lines, the big black plastic lines, and put the starter back in on this side. And this side is about wrapped up. Time to jump over to the other side. This is day 3 for me on this. I wasn't able to get to it at all today until after work, about 6 o'clock. I've been on it an hour and a half tonight. I got frustrated last night trying to drill out the bolt, and finally just had to go home and walk away. Tonight's going a lot smoother. So it's not a fun project. If it goes back together and everything works as it's supposed to, and I end up saving a couple grand, I'll be happy that I took 3 days to do it. Maybe 3.5 days. I don't know. I might not get it done tonight. Probably have to finish it up tomorrow night, and then we leave on Wednesday, so not a whole lot of time for testing. If you're a regular mechanic, if this is what you do every day, all day, this is probably a whole lot easier for you because, you've got all the tools at your fingertips. You know where everything is. I'm digging and hunting a little bit for stuff. I'm fairly organized, but I'm still digging and hunting for stuff. Having multiple different size extensions, having every swivel, having deep and shallow sockets, having 6-point sockets instead of all 12-point sockets. A lot of little things play into this to make the job a lot easier. So if you've got a fully stocked toolbox, this job's going to be a whole lot easier than if you're just trying to work with, 159-piece Craftsman set. That's going to make it pretty difficult on you. It's going well. It's a tight space to be in, so I'm a larger guy. I'm having a hard time getting back in there. You're hugging on the exhaust and the suspension the whole time, and then there's no room left to get your head in there. And of course, you're trying to put a light in there so you can see what you're doing, and then make it even worse. You're sticking a camera up in there, and there's just not a lot of room left for things. So I'm going to hook up the 2 black pipes onto there, get those hose clamps put back on, put the starter back in, and call this side done. I am not putting this wheel back on here. I'm not putting the inner fender in. I'm not putting anything back permanently yet, except for the turbo and the manifold, until I can start this thing, run it. I want to check for leaks. It's going to be a whole lot easier to do that without an inner fender, without a wheel, and if I do have anything that needs to be tightened or readjusted, wow, so much easier to have to not redo all that stuff. So my suggestion is get it to the point where you can restart the engine, do the other side, get it to a point where you can restart the engine, fire it up. Oil leaks, coolant leaks, exhaust leaks. I mean, there's 3 different things that can leak here. But if you get for the vacuum line, you could have a vacuum leak. So you could have 4 different leaks going on here. Let's check everything. Let's make sure we got it all done right. Let's make sure it sounds right, and do all that. Scale of 1 to 10 difficulty, it's probably a solid 8. I would say try it at your own risk. Just remember, you can always call the tow truck and have it hauled to the dealership and let them finish up for you if you get to that point. Don't ever think that you've taken it apart. Well, it's ruined now. You could get it to a point where you realize that you've reached the end of your expertise and your abilities, and that's all right. It's okay to call the tow truck and have them come pick it up and tow it off. I'm really hoping that's not what happens here, but let's keep working. Let's remember we have to put on this 45-degree flexible boot. And yes, I said boot. Everybody says, so he said a boot, and they got to get that line on there. I twisted around. They are a little woven together up here, so they will fight you a little bit on getting them in there, but I got it close enough. I think I can lift that up and put that on. I will point out that down here in this bracket, and then there's another bracket up in here, and then this tray down here in the bottom, everything's got an uncanny habit of falling and getting stuck in one of those areas. Little holes back in here. Terrible design. Everything's open to the top. Actually, some mud and stuff can sit in it. Just bad design. It's not open on the bottom where stuff can fall through. So you will spend a lot of time, if you're anything like me, fishing parts out of underneath there. You don't fit and your hands don't go. But anyways, the problem at hand. We've got the starter back on down here, okay? That takes 2 13mm bolts. There's studs that go through from the back of from the back of the transmission coming back up through into the starter. And then on one of them, there's a 10mm that holds the ground strap, and there's a bracket that's got a couple lines running through it, and that all bolts back together. So this is all back together. So except for these 3 hose clamps there, and up there, I got to put that boot on, tighten those hose clamps. This side is wrapped up. You're going to find, like I did, it's easier to put this bottom part of the boot on the turbo first. This clamp here, it wraps around and holds onto the pipe. At the top, it does not. And then you want to take the clamp here and slide it up the pipe to get it out of the way so it doesn't bind up on you. And then you want to force this boot down. You're going to have to go up top and lift that pipe up a little bit, but you're going to fight with this thing a little bit, and you're going to swear and you're going to cuss probably a little bit. So that's going to fall down like that 1,000 times, but we just got to work on getting that on there. And then here comes the clamp again. So a little tricky. I'm going to get 2 hands in here and do it, but get this clamp on first, slide this one up the pipe best you can, and get it up between where those 2 intertwine, and that'll hold it up there. And now I can get 2 hands in here when I set the camera down and fight to get that thing to pop on. We almost got it. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Nice. One-handed and all. Way to go, James.
Nice job.
Now we can bring this clamp back down here, put it where it's easy to get the wrench on it. There we go. All we got to do now is tighten that up, tighten this up, tighten the bottom one up. This side's wrapped. All right, guys, that's it. Passenger side is complete. Everything's been tightened and checked, and we're ready to go to the driver's side. I've got 1 bolt in there that I replaced when I did the turbos, and I guess I must have got the wrong thread or something, because she won't come out. She seized, and you can see having a lot of fun with the Sawzall in here, trying to cut that off without nicking a line or cutting a hole in the turbo or whatever else. It's proven to be troublesome. Okay, that was kind of the bull in a china shop approach. We're going to try something a little bit more delicate. Let's try a Dremel tool. Got it on a wand here. Hopefully I can get it up in there and not cut holes in my turbo, or yeah, let's try that. Takes a YouTuber 20 times longer to do anything because, well, we're always trying to get that right camera angle. Takes a while. Going to get the camera wedged in here behind the light. That camera just fell on the floor. Okay, that's not good.
Well, life has nearly killed me, and my mind has put me on the edge.
I don't honestly know if that's working, but I've always been a believer that if there's sparks coming out, you're cutting something. So, wow, it's probably a hardened bolt and it's just taking a while. But I'm going to sit here and do that until the bolt comes off and I can get that turbo out because, well, at this point I think that's easier than trying to get the welder up there and weld another bolt to it and twist it out. And I mean, I might make a bigger mess up there than I already got. So let's slow and steady, wins the race. A little Dremel tool might win it for us. Let's go ahead and cut this bolt off and see what happens. Okay, I think they did a pretty clean job of cutting that bolt off of there. So now if we, oh, look at that. It didn't take the flange part of the bolt. I can't believe that. I'm gonna have to grind that down. I don't know if I can break that off of there or not. I'm gonna give it a shot. Okay, it snapped right off of there. So you can see the bolt's still back in there, broken, but that's okay. It's broken into the old exhaust flange, which we're getting rid of anyway, so I really don't care that it's stuck in there. I've got the oil lines off from the back. I've got to get this line out of here, and it's giving me some grief. I can't get the right angle, so now that I can move the turbo around, I'm gonna have to get the light and the camera out of here, but let me see if I can get that line popped out of here. Well, the back coolant line's clearly off because, you know, I got a face full of antifreeze, and I gotta get this front coolant line out still, but I got the turbo to break free of that back line. When I changed the turbos, I didn't drain the coolant, and I'm pretty sure that more coolant fell on me this time taking the turbos out when I did drain the coolant than the last time. I don't know that draining the coolant is a necessary step. You're gonna get coolant out anyways, and I think it's below a certain level. I don't know where those coolant lines come from. I swear I got more coolant out this time than I did when I had when I had changed the turbos and not drained the coolant out, because I didn't know you were supposed to. Take that for what it is, but I don't know that you necessarily have to drain the coolant to take the turbos off. You're still gonna make a mess. Success, the turbo is out. So there's our other manifold, all right, and you can see underneath there, manifold bolt is broke, and the other one. The same two studs are broken on this side, the back two. Well, what appears to be the case is they both broke off on the outside of the flange, which is a better place for them to break, because once I get that flange out of there, there's a little nub left that I can get a hold of and kind of get them out. If they broke off inside the head, you'd have to drill them, you know, extract them and stuff like that, maybe weld a nut on there. It could be a bigger mess. I'm happy to find that these ones are broken the same way the other ones did. I'm gonna call it a night. It's about 9:30, and but before I go, I'm gonna soak down those exhaust studs really well, my PB blaster, and I will be ready to take those off in the morning. Okay guys, so I was gonna head home, but going my way, the bolts were coming out nice, so I stuck with it. So this side was always louder than the other side. You can see that gasket. It's actually ripped through all 4 layers. It tore through, there's pieces missing. The other side, I mean, it was ripped, but it wasn't all the way through, and there weren't pieces missing. So this side was definitely a little louder than the other side. But look at that soot up there right where it was leaking. The rest of it's pretty clean. Right back there was leaking. And you can see now my 2 exhaust studs that are snapped off, but they're sticking out 1/2 an inch, 5/8 of an inch. Got a couple that stayed in the block. The other ones, they just they twisted out with the nut. So and it makes sense because the bolt is torqued to 8.5 pounds and the nut's torqued to 18. So this isn't in there as tight as the nut is on the stud. So it makes sense they come out that way. Maybe that's the way they're designed. I'm not sure, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 holes as well drilled on this side, of course, like the other side. I'm gonna soak this down a little bit more tonight so I can get those 2 studs out in the morning, and I'm really gonna call it a night this time. All right, guys, it's day 4. Turned out to be a pretty grueling task, actually. So a little bit of my airbox to put back together and that sort of thing. But I just added a little coolant to it for what we had drained out. Let's give her a shot. So I had to take both turbos out, take both exhaust manifolds out. change those, and I showed you most of that. I showed you filthy. I showed the passenger side, not so much the driver's side. It's just really a spitting image of the two. I will tell you though, the driver's side is where you should start, because it's definitely easier. Learn on the easy side, get accustomed to it, figure out what you're doing. The driver's side is so much easier to do. You can stick your head in there and you see everything. Now there's the steering shaft, but that somehow is a lot easier to get around than all the junk that's on the passenger side. So my advice is, if you're going to do this project, start with the driver's side. Do yourself a favor. Make sure you're happy with what you're doing. If the driver's side is above your skill level, call it quits. Now, my exhaust stud came loose out of the turbo, and I just figured I'd be able to spin it up in there tight. And I wasn't able to, and I was messing with it. I ended up breaking the exhaust stud. So I've got two exhaust studs holding the exhaust pipe on the passenger side, only one on this side. Now, the pipe is super rigid, but it's going to have an exhaust leak. So I fixed two leaks, manifold, but I've created another, I'm sure. So let's go ahead, fire it up, and see what it sounds like. All right, put the key in here. There's that noise again. I've had the battery out of this thing for 4 days. Been nice not to hear that noise. It is the most annoying sound. Let's see what it sounds like. Ooh. Pretty quiet, actually. Very quiet. So let's let it run for a second here. I'm going to jump underneath and check and see if we have any leaks. Remember, there's two coolant passages on each turbo. There's two oil passages on each turbo. There's the manifold gasket. There's the turbo gasket. There's the exhaust gasket. There's the downpipes, the boots. There's so many things that you disconnect to do this project. There's so many places where you could have a leak or something could go wrong. So let me jump under there and see. We got good oil pressure. It's not overheating yet. So let me see what it's doing. And then, wow, it is 9:28 at night, and I still have a lot to do ahead of me. I've got to get the camper ready to pull out of here in the morning. Still not sure how I'm going to do that yet. I've got, we got a lot going on here at the shop. So let me get to it, but let's look underneath, see if we have any leaks. All right, we have an oil leak there. I don't think it's the fitting on the bottom. I think it's the turbo's leaking internally, actually. Because the oil's coming out through the exhaust fitting. Shut her down. Getting a little smoky. But boy, she's quiet, isn't she? Okay, so guys, it looks like the turbo on the passenger side, I don't know how, it looks like it's developed an internal leak. I'm not sure how that works, but the oil is coming through the exhaust manifold, like it's trying to seep out of there. It runs for a while before it seeps out. I guess it's finding a way. But anyways, I've got some kind of failure on the interior of that turbo. I'm not sure. I don't really know a lot about turbos. So anyways, that turbo is going to have to come off. You're going to have to cancel this trip. We're not going to get to Tennessee. Bummer. I hate that. I hate when truck stuff gets in the way. But we're going to get it fixed. So next time, we're not trying to do it the night before, right? Lesson learned. Don't let stuff sit until you absolutely need it. Fix it when you need to fix it. So that's what we're going to do. I'll go tomorrow and I'll get a new turbo ordered for this. When it's in, I'll pull the truck back in, lift it up. I'm not putting the inner wheel wells back in. I'm not doing any of that stuff to wrap it up. I'm just going to leave it wide open. It'll be fine. It'll make it easier when I bring it in next time. Next time I'll bring it in. Just going to give it my best attitude. Just go for it. Try to make it happen. So I'm bummed about not camping. I hate that we're missing out on a camping trip. That one hurts right there. But anyways, it's going to be okay. We're going to get the truck fixed up. We're going to get it right. We're going to still do it ourselves. The thing to remember here is I completed the task. So I don't know if completing the task, I damaged the turbo in the process. I don't know if taking it on and off. I don't know how the turbo's damaged. I don't know what it did, but somehow there's a problem there. So I'm not sure what had happened, what it did. I don't know, but let's go ahead and take credit for the fact that, you know, we did the task. We changed the manifolds, which is what we set out to do. The thing starts, it's silent, it just sounds great. So I'm really happy that it sounds like the day I got it, which makes me super happy. So that's a good thing. The turbo, well, you know, there's hiccups in the roads of life, and that's a hiccup on the road of life right there. And they always hit you when you don't want them to, but that's okay. We are bigger and stronger than that. We're just gonna move on to the next day. So we'll look at it again tomorrow. I'll be back here. I will show you the wrap up before I finish this video. She'll work again. She will. So anyways, guys, it's not the end of the video, but it's the end of the night. I'm gonna put the wheels on it, stick it outside so it's not blocking the forklift path here and stuff like that. And then tomorrow I'll work on getting the other parts and we'll just go at it from there. All right, guys, it's Saturday. I'm back here up here. I'm gonna take a minute and look at the truck again. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Start it up. Perfectly quiet. Doesn't make any noise. I love it. Sounds like it's supposed to. We've got an oil problem. And here's what I'm pretty sure it's the turbo. So, burning smoke through the exhaust. Burning oil through there. And it is leaking a little bit in here. So I guess what we need to do at this point is pull that turbo back off, look inside of it, seeing it's something that could be rebuilt pretty easily, or do we have to go and order another turbo? I'm thinking we probably need to order another turbo. That's the situation we're up against. It sucks, but I think the easiest thing to do is gonna be pull this turbo off, take a look at it, take it back over, get a rebuilt one, put a new turbo on it. I've done it enough times now that it's getting where it's fairly simple. The turbo work, getting it on and off, is actually not that hard. So let's go ahead and pull this turbo off of here. It'll be the passenger side turbo. There's a lot of conversation about, you know, when you look under the car, you can see there's an air pump, a vacuum pump that connects to the brakes that's right above the turbo. And a lot of times people mistake the oil leak onto the turbo as a turbo leak, and it turns out it's actually that vacuum pump. And well, you saw the smoke coming out of the exhaust. That's why I'm pretty sure it's internal in the turbo and not indeed dripping onto the turbo from externally. So I'm pretty sure it's an internal problem. Let's pull the turbo off and see what it's going to take to get that fixed up and running right. Just watch the video back. It sounds like it's got a lifter noise. It sounds loud. It sounds all kinds of things. And I'm pretty sure that's because I still don't have any of the piping on. But when you're standing here, not running it through a microphone on a camera, it does sound right. It sounds quiet. It sounds like it's supposed to sound. Like I say, I've got you know, open ports here. This pipe's off. There's no air box on top. This is open. That, so everything's open up here still. But the engine itself, it does sound quiet, and there's no exhaust noise left. So there is a little bit of noise you can hear because the airbox is off and that sort of thing. But the engine sounds right. One other thing, the vacuum line that goes on the top here, yeah, it snapped. They're plastic, they're old, they snapped. So I put a larger piece of hose over the two of them and clamped them together. And let's see if that works. Like my C-clamp that I should just left alone, that was down here. Should just left that alone. If this works, I'm just gonna leave it alone. All right, we're gonna fire it up and test and see how we did here. Remember that we added a little bit of oil to that turbo, but it's kind of hasn't been run before. So let's go ahead, hold the gas pedal to the floor while you're cranking it so it won't start. You hear that? It'll just turn over, but it won't start. That allows us to get a little bit of oil flowing up through everything. You know, the oil pump's pumping the oil up through, so we lubricate everything. It's all been sitting for a little bit. 6 days, I think. Maybe 5. Let's try to start it. So she started up nice. Let's walk over. This side was doing good over here, the driver's side. Let's check the passenger side. Quiet. Got a little bit of smoke coming out the back here, but I think that's probably the oil that was left over in the turbo. That's not nearly what it was doing. Guys, we might have this thing licked. Maybe. Let's not get too excited. That was there before. We're burning off a little bit of surface oil there. The stuff that was wet. That's okay, I don't mind that. We get a little smoke from that. We're going to let this thing come up to temperature just a little bit. We are a little bit weepy up here. Now, they say that that's a really hard thing to change out, that air pump, but you know what? I mean, you can totally see the back of it from back here. When you've got the inner fender out, you can kind of see everything. Super quiet. Remember at the beginning of the video how loud this thing was? Super quiet. The manifold seems to be doing its job. Everything seems good. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to check the levels. Make sure everything looks good. I'm putting the tire back on this side here. Of course, 6 of my brand new lug nuts from the lug nut guys. Hey, lug nut guys. Inside their box. Huh? Lug nut guys. Mortski approved. Like and subscribe. Mortski Repair on YouTube. Great channel. Love watching this guy. He's a lot of fun. I think the dog does more work than he does, but they hide that real well in the editing. So anyways, check out him. He's a good channel to follow. A lot of fun. Alright guys, I'll give you one new turbo. So we've got our exhaust part back on here, new gasket in here, one of the original, and then I changed this out to a new one. They came with 2 new studs for here, but obviously these don't work because they don't have the flange on them here that pulls that down tight, so you would end up with an exhaust leak here. So back to O'Reilly's, got a replacement one of these. This one was still fine, so I left that in there, but did that. Now I'm about to crawl back up under there, put this thing together. So the key thing to remember putting this back together is you've got this line back here. Alright, it slides into the back of the turbo. This one here is a little funny to fit around the face of the turbo. You gotta kind of tip the turbo down in there. You gotta get your exhaust in here. This one here is the last 2 bolts you put in. Spin a couple bolts in there just to hold that in place, and then you gotta work your air lines down in there as well. Let's see if I can do this relatively easily. We got a new gasket up on here. This line here is tricky. It's the trickiest part to get on here. To get it, because it doesn't flex at all. And I'm always afraid of breaking it. So, and there goes the gasket. So we gotta remember that's not on there. This guy lifts over there like that. Okay, that goes on there. And I'm just going to throw a bolt up here real quick, just to hold it in place. I know I got to put the gasket back on, but just don't want anything falling here. You can kind of grab that gasket, slide it in fairly easily. And then the bucket you're sitting on flips out from underneath you. You know, a bunch of aerobatics that aren't caught on camera, unfortunately, but you managed to save the day. Now, this line right here is really easy to pop in here at this point. Don't do it yet. You'll regret it later because it makes it really hard to get this bolt in once this line pops down in there. So you want to leave that where you got little flexibilities here. Make sure this will pull up on here, okay. Now what we really need to do is check and make sure that coolant line right in the back where it's supposed to be. But I'm going to put a nut on there. I'm just trying to kind of gather things together a little bit and get them roughly in place. Now I get behind there, make sure that line went in, and then we can start popping these things together. Well, I don't know, guys. I'm still getting a little bit of smoke around the turbo. Hard to tell if that's still blowing old oil off or not. I'm just going to watch it real close. And still got a little bit of smoke coming out back here. You can literally see oil down in there though, right in the bottom of the tailgate, the tailpipe. You can see black oil just sitting there. So I think it's going to take a little while to burn all that through the system. And that smoke there could be a little back pressure from it burning off in the cats and in the exhaust and just pushing back up front. I don't see any oil weeping, so I think the best thing to do is throw a couple thousand pounds of tile in the back of this thing, go make a delivery, and see how she does. If I break down, it's my backup plan over there. Mabel, hey bud, you gonna come help me? We'll see how that goes. You know, you think all the way around I'd be fairly pleased with how that worked out, but I don't know. Let's look down here at the exhaust, shall we? Yeah. Killing skeeters. Except it's not skeeter season anymore. I got an oil problem. It's going right past the turbo. This isn't special effects. I'm not adding smoke. Truck's doing it all by itself. So what we've got going on here is we've got the brake booster vacuum pump. She ain't doing the thing. We got to fix that. That'll be the next video. I'm going to show you how we fix this. I'm going to show you how we fix that dreaded coolant leak in the back of the engine. Most of the videos I've seen, they're lifting the cabs off these trucks. People are going to the dealership spending $4,000 or $5,000 to fix these things. How much is the truck worth? Really? I mean, got 185,000 miles on it. Put a couple turbos on it, 4 or 5 grand. Do the exhaust manifolds, couple of grand. Get coolant leaks, 4 or 5 grand. How much do you really want to put into this thing? I like to save the money by, well, doing a lot of the work myself. I'm not a mechanic, but I am a guy that's stubborn and doesn't want to spend a ton of money at the dealership, so I don't mind coming up here to the shop and tinkering this. You're going to see what I do to fix that. Done my research, think I've got a plan. That'll be the next video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. You know, YouTube really likes the little click likes, and they really like the comments. The last video we put up, we got comments on that. Appreciate that. Thank you guys. I put a post up the other day on my Facebook, and a lot of people commenting on that. So follow us on Facebook, you know, Project Overload James. There's a link down below for that. I got to turn this truck off because, well, I'm tearing up. I'm going to die in here. Pretty bad. Follow along. Make sure you subscribe. I don't want you to miss the next video. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your support. Whoa. I know some of you guys are smoky burnout guys, and then other people want to know what happens if I really just give it the beans. Let's give it the beans. If there was any mice, I think we ran them out too. Whoa.